The drama surrounding USA basketball is no longer about whether the Americans are talented enough to dominate the world. That question has already been answered. The real problem is far more dangerous, far more complicated, and honestly, far more fascinating. Team USA has too much talent. And at the center of that storm stands one name capable of changing the entire structure of women's basketball forever: Caitlin Clark. The last time the world saw Team USA on the international stage, the dynasty nearly cracked in front of everybody. The Americans escaped the Olympic final against France by a single point, surviving 67-66 in a game that felt less like dominance and more like a warning. For decades, USA basketball walked into tournaments with an aura so overwhelming that opponents lost before tip-off. But Paris changed something. The rest of the world caught up faster than expected, while the American roster looked older, slower, and strangely vulnerable. The invincibility was gone. For the first time in years, people genuinely wondered if the gold medal streak could actually end. That fear is exactly why the 2026 roster feels like a complete reset. This is not a transition team. This is not a rebuilding phase. This is a basketball super team being assembled in real time. The veterans who carried the previous generation are fading away, and now an entirely new era is taking over the sport. But what makes this transition so explosive is that the next generation is stacked with players who all believe they deserve to be the face of the future. Nobody represents that collision more than the debate surrounding Paige Bueckers and Caitlin Clark. On paper, the decision sounds impossible. Clark is the biggest star women's basketball has ever produced. Her arrival changed television ratings, ticket sales, merchandise numbers, social media traffic, and the overall popularity of the WNBA itself. Entire arenas transformed because of her presence. Defenses began picking players up from half court. Just because she stepped onto the floor, she became more than an athlete. She became an event. And yet, despite all of that, there is a very real possibility she might come off the bench for Team USA. That is the problem. Not because Clark lacks talent, but because the Americans suddenly have multiple generational players competing for the same roles. Carol Lawson is not trying to build an all-star showcase. She is trying to build the most unstoppable basketball machine possible. And from a pure tactical standpoint, Paige Bueckers makes perfect sense as the starting point guard. She is controlled, efficient, calm under pressure, and almost surgically precise with the basketball. International basketball rewards discipline, spacing, and decision-making, and Bueckers thrives in all three areas. Her ability to manipulate defenses without over-dribbling makes her ideal for FIBA competition, where the pace and physicality are completely different from the WNBA. But then you look at Caitlin Clark, and logic suddenly stops working, because Clark bends basketball reality itself. The moment she crosses half court, defensive schemes collapse inward like gravity has changed. Opponents stop guarding space normally. Coaches panic, rotations speed up, help defenders cheat toward her before the play even develops. Players don't just defend Clark, they fear her range. One hesitation, one missed switch, one tiny opening, and she launches a shot from distances that still feel unnatural in women's basketball. And the terrifying part is that she does not even need to score to destroy a defense. Her passing is just as devastating. The second defenders overcommit. She threads impossible passes into gaps nobody else can even see. That creates a nightmare for Team USA coaches, because Clark coming off the bench might actually make the Americans even deadlier. Imagine surviving the opening assault from Bueckers and Kelsey Plum, only to see Clark enter the game alongside Sabrina Ionescu. Suddenly, the floor spacing becomes absurd. Two of the greatest long-range shooters in women's basketball history are sharing the court together. Every possession becomes chaos. Every screen becomes dangerous. Every fast break becomes a potential highlight waiting to happen. It is almost unfair. Teams would spend the entire game mentally exhausted just trying to survive the perimeter pressure. And that is before even mentioning the front court. Because while the guards will dominate headlines, the true backbone of this roster may actually be the terrifying trio of Breanna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, and A'ja Wilson. That combination should not even exist on one roster. Stewart remains one of the most complete basketball players the sport has ever seen. She can handle like a guard, defend like a center, and score from every level imaginable. There are almost no defensive matchups that work against her because she immediately punishes whatever weakness you present. Smaller defenders get overpowered. Bigger defenders get stretched out to the perimeter. Double teams only open passing lanes for everyone else. She is basketball evolution in human form. Then there is Nafisa Collier, who quietly became one of the most efficient two-way forces the league has ever witnessed. Her defensive instincts border on supernatural. She reads offenses before they develop. She rotates early, communicates constantly, and turns defensive possessions into controlled chaos for opponents. Put her next to Stewart and suddenly Team USA gains versatility at a level international teams simply cannot replicate. And then comes Aja Wilson, the player who currently sits alone at the top of women's basketball. Wilson is not just dominant, she is inevitable. Every championship team eventually reaches a moment where the system breaks down and somebody simply has to overpower the game itself. That is where Wilson separates from everybody else. She controls both ends of the floor with a level of intensity that never drops. Rebounding, rim protection, transition scoring, post dominance, mid-range efficiency, defensive leadership, she does everything at an elite level simultaneously. When Team USA nearly collapsed in Paris, Wilson was the player who saved them. Without her, the dynasty may have already ended. Now imagine all three sharing the floor together behind an army of elite guards. That is why the Caitlin Clark debate becomes so fascinating. Because Team USA does not need Clark to survive anymore. They need her to elevate an already unstoppable machine into something historically untouchable, and that changes everything about how Lawson might use her. Clark as a sixth woman sounds ridiculous until you realize what it actually does strategically. She becomes the ultimate momentum weapon. The Americans can unleash her against second units already struggling with fatigue. Suddenly the pace changes. The shot difficulty changes. The spacing changes. Entire defensive game plans collapse in minutes. No international team possesses enough perimeter defenders to survive wave after wave of elite American guards, and yet there is still another possibility looming in the background. The Clark-Buchers backcourt. That pairing feels less like a basketball lineup and more like the future arriving early. They already have chemistry from their younger USA basketball days. They already know how to share responsibilities. And most importantly, neither player needs ego-driven control of the offense. Buchers can orchestrate. Clark can attack off the ball. Then they can switch roles instantly mid-possession. Defenses would have no clear answers because both players are capable of functioning as scorer or playmaker at any moment. That flexibility could define the next decade of USA basketball. And the terrifying reality for the rest of the world is that this roster still goes deeper. Angel Reese brings relentless rebounding and physicality. Aaliyah Boston provides elite interior balance and basketball IQ. Ryan Howard adds perimeter defense and shooting. Kalia Copper brings championship experience. Jackie Young gives the team another versatile two-way weapon capable of stabilizing any lineup. This is not just a national team anymore. This is the deepest collection of women's basketball talent ever assembled under one flag, which brings us back to the original problem. USA basketball does not have a talent issue. It has an identity issue. The Americans are trying to figure out how to balance legacy, chemistry, popularity, and pure basketball strategy all at once. Caitlin Clark's rise accelerated the growth of the sport so dramatically that now every lineup decision feels political, emotional, and historic at the same time. Benching her creates controversy. Starting her creates other sacrifices. Every choice changes the structure of the roster, but maybe that is exactly what greatness looks like. Dynasties become dangerous when competition exists inside the locker room itself. Every player pushes the next player harder. Every lineup creates another terrifying option. Every substitution feels unfair. And if this roster actually reaches its full potential in Berlin, the rest of the world may witness something women's basketball has never seen before. A team. USA squad so loaded that even its bench could compete for international gold on its own. The scary part is that they are still just getting started. Now the question shifts to you. Do you think this is the most talented roster in USA women's basketball history? Should Caitlin Clark start, or is she even more dangerous as the ultimate sixth woman weapon? And if Team USA does unleash the Clark-Buchers backcourt together full-time, could anybody in the world realistically stop them? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like if you enjoyed the breakdown, and subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest stories shaping basketball's future.